What's going down, y'all? We are back with Dollars and Cents with the second version of the NHL Stanley Cup playoff preview of round one. And this video, we're going to talk about the Western Conference. You know what? There's a lot of intriguing matchups. But the first matchup I'm going to start with is the number 1 seed against the number 8 seed. And the number 1 seed are my boys, my Vancouver Canucks. Reppin' Van City President's Trophy. Gotta show props to my boys this year. They did it. And they're going to be in tough first round because they're taking on their arch nemesis, the number 8 seed Chicago Blackhawks, who needed some help from the Minnesota Wild to even get in this year. But they're in, and they drew my boys. And it's going to be a good one, y'all. I'm going to tell you right now, I could go on and on about this series, but we'll kind of break it down, dumb it down here because we don't got all night. But basically, the past 2 years, Chicago has ousted my boys from the Stanley Cup playoffs. They've been just a thorn in my ace for the past 2 years. However, this is the year things will turn around. Third time's the charm, and this time, the Canucks will be prepared. They faced adversity all year, so many injuries this year, and they still able to win the President's Cup trophy. But what the difference is that the teams from the past, Chicago has lost a lot of key players, a lot of new faces on Chicago. Vancouver also has a lot of new faces, but the difference is the new faces on Vancouver has created a positive outcome, whereas the new faces on Chicago has created a negative outcome. So plain and simple, Vancouver's a better team on all facets of the board, including in net, where they got a big advantage. Corey Crawford's a rookie for Chicago, whereas Bobby Lou's one of the best in the league. So I'm definitely liking Vancouver to take this one down in 5, maybe 6. 6 basically just because Chicago's got some high-class firepower in Taves, King, Seabrook, Sharp, so you can never rule out those dudes. But Vancouver's going to take this series. We're going to exercise the demons. The Nucks in 5 or 6 for this series. Moving on to the next series in the Western Conference, number 2 seed San Jose Sharks, number 7 seed LA Kings, and this one is going to be the most lopsided shellacking of a series in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs. Get out your brooms because the Sharks are going to sweep the Kings no problem in this series. LA is missing their top 2 offensive threats, Anze Kopitar, Justin Williams. Even if Justin Williams, he might be slated to come back, but even if he is, he's going to be injured, hobbled around. They just, they were reeling going into the playoffs, losing, I think, 4 of their last 5, including a 6-1 beatdown by these very same San Jose Sharks. They just barely snuck in. They went from, 4 seed to 7 seed in a heartbeat, whereas San Jose has been red hot, probably the best team in the second half of the regular season. And like I said, it's going to be an absolute torch show. I expect the brooms out on this one. Take the Sharks to win this one in a sweep, y'all. 4-0. Next series on the Western Conference, we got the number 3 Detroit Red Wings and the number 6 Phoenix Coyotes. You know what? The Red Wings, I don't know how they do it, but time after time, year after year, these dudes get in the playoffs and just dominate. I mean, they've been consistent year in and year out. I think this is like their 23rd or something ridiculous like that, straight playoff appearance. I mean, that is ridiculous. But Phoenix does pose a threat to these Red Wings. Last year, this is a rematch of last year, and last year, Phoenix took them to the brink to 7 games, where, Detroit showed them who's boss by destroying them in Game 7. However, that was a big scare to Detroit. This year, however, I don't think it's going to be a big scare. The only reason Phoenix made it that far was Ilya Bryzgalov. He stood on his head, had his A game day in and day out, and they still lost. Unless Bryzgalov repeats that performance, Phoenix doesn't stand a chance here. I like Detroit here in 5 or 6. The only reason I give them maybe 6 is because Zetterberg is on the IR right now. He's injured. He's not in there for Game 1, but he may be back during the series sometimes, but he will be hobbly. But regardless of that, unless Bryzgalov stands on his head and steals the series, Detroit's going to take this one in probably 6 games. Final series I want to talk about in the Western Conference is 4 versus 5, and this is a classic case of high-octane offense going up against stingy defense. You got the best line and best number one line in hockey, most offensively talented line in hockey out of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, who's the number 4 seed. Getzlaf, Perry, Ryan. Those dudes do damage on the offensive. They fill up that stat sheet. And they're going to go against the top 3 in Nashville. Predators, number 5 seed. Pekka Rinne, their goalie. Shea Weber, Ryan Suter, their top 2 defensemen. So classic O versus classic D. Who's going to win this one? This is going to be a grueling series. This series will go 7. The key and the biggest difference is going to lie between the pipes. Can Pekka Rinne steal this one for the Preds? And right now, there's a big question mark in between the pipes for the Anaheim Mighty Ducks. You got Jonas Hiller, Ray Emery battling injuries, which may spring Dan Ellis into the fray, who was, not even expected to be a number 1. He did actually play for the Nashville Predators last year, so this is going to be an intriguing, side storyline to the series. But, there's a big question mark in between the pipes for the Ducks, and that question mark will lead me to believe that the Nashville Predators will come out this one in 7, simply because you got to take defense over offense, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been in the past that's happened, and you got to go with, the past and what has happened. So those are my picks for the Western Conference. Mark my words, I do think the eventual Stanley Cup champion will come from the West. But, nonetheless, you got some great series to choose from coming out of the West. So log yourself on to betus.com. Check out those Western Conference series. Sit back, relax, watch those players hit the ice for the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's going to be a great spring, y'all. So that's it for me. Catch y'all on the flip.